Yo, it's good. Welcome to the Mowry podcast. I'm Tavior Mowry,
I'm Sandy Mowry.
and this is the
True Mowry.
Mowry. Oh yeah, this is True Mowry, and this is the Mowry podcast. Our 2025 guest. I'm not gonna wake him up because he looked like he's fading.
I know, I'm trying to get him to go to sleep. I'm like trying to figure out the best place for him not to be in the mic, breathing.
Oh,
Yeah, he's so loud. But he doesn't, I might have to put him on me for a second.
he's fading. Maybe I won't speak as loud.
No, you're fine.
I'll talk like this, like how they be holding the microphone.
The ASMR.
How are you guys doing? What's good? It's good to be back. Happy about the responses and the
No, it's
comments.
fine. Thanks for welcoming us back, guys.
Yeah, how'd that make you feel, Z?
Good.
'Cause, like,
You're actually
I
the one who
read-
told me to go and look.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? How'd you feel reading them?
Good. Everybody was so kind with the welcome back Sandies and yeah.
Fire. That's cool.
Yeah.
Today we wanted to talk about
I'll let you in on a little behind the scenes. 9 times out of 10, we sit down on the couch and we say, what are we going to talk about?
facts.
Sometimes we'll know. Like last week, we knew we were giving an overview of like the time that we had left.
Yeah.
This week, it's like, he said, what's in your heart? He said. Something I've been praying about and talking about a lot with my community and Tave is how to love him and accept him, maybe.
Yeah.
Where he is instead of protect myself against who he was.
Yeah. Where they are versus where they are currently versus where they were at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when people evolve and grow, so we will celebrate 5 years of being married in September. Married in September.
Yes.
We've been together for 7 years already. And over the course of that time, obviously, and the specific ages, because I was 20.
5.
When we got together, I think I was 23.
And I was 24 going 25.
Yeah, I had like just turned 23.
Yep.
And I just turned 30. So that
Or maybe you're 22 turning 23 because I met you in January.
Yeah, that's right. So I was 22.
Whoa.
I know.
We're kind of young.
I know. Well, we were dating. I mean, we didn't get married at 22.
Yeah. But it's still like, dang, like, I kind of been around you for a little bit.
And what I'm getting at is very pivotal years.
Yeah.
To me.
Oh, yeah.
Like
your
that
20s.
age, yeah.
22 to 30?
22 to 30 is like you've seen a lot of.
30 and thriving?
And my like the way you think changes so drastically in those years.
Yeah.
Like even like let's say 18 to 21.
That's even a big gap.
Yeah. But it's just significant.
Yeah, no facts.
So, but the wounds we gave each other in those years are also significant. Not that they were like so bad or anything, but when you get hurt by somebody, it sticks.
Facts.
And so.
Or harmed.
Yeah, you
hurt and
know.
harmed.
We
Yeah.
learned that in church the other day.
Yeah, the difference between being hurt and feeling harm, or being harmed, is the posture of one's heart.
If it's intentional or not.
If it's intentional, like someone's trying to hurt you, but if it's not intentional, you just got harmed by that person.
Or flip it.
Or
I think it's hurt was, he said, we're all going to get hurt in love. But if I'm trying to harm you, I'm doing it intentionally.
there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Exactly. Which, you know, in theory, I feel you, but they both feel the same. However, it takes a certain level of understanding, grace first and foremost, and maturity to perceive, like, what is this? Did I get hurt by this person and it was just like an
Part of
error?
life,
Yeah, it just like comes with the territory. Or was this like someone with malicious intent trying to harm me? You know what I mean?
I think an example of that is like my past, the story, like who I was before I met Dave, and so much life can come up. I just wanted to make it a little bit more concrete for people.
Run it up.
Tone for me is something that Tavior has given me a lot of grace in. I grew up in an extremely direct family, and with mostly women. So, meaning it was just my dad and my brother, but I'm one of 5 in my siblings. And so the way that women talk to each other is very different than the way men talk to each other. And it's kind of interesting though, because you could talk to a man with a specific tone that would completely offend me.
Right.
And I could talk to a woman with a tone that would completely offend you.
Yeah.
But y'all don't get offended and we don't get offended.
I think I've seen men turn up, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there also is this kind of like mutual understanding and like we both do not enjoy this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But also if it's in like what's an example of that?
Something that a guy could say to a guy?
Yeah.
You stink.
I like you funky like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not like that offensive, I feel, for
You
men
just
to
asked
say.
me to give an example.
I know, but like to you it sounds offensive. To us it's just like, and I by no means am down with smelling nobody. I enjoy smelling good at all times. I'm not condoning funkiness. Don't get that twisted. But I am saying
I'm
that
saying that's an example of something a guy could say to a guy that would be like, oh, what? And then a guy could say to a girl that would be so offended.
Oh, yeah,
that's, you know.
No, for sure. The metrics are different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that what you were wanting me to give you an example of?
Yeah.
But then you got caught up in...
Well, I think to my ears, I'm like, that's not that offensive for, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe you should...
No, I don't know, because you had to...
Yeah.
But that's the example in play, where I'm like, that's not offensive.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, that's what I'm just telling you. That is offensive.
Right, to you, though, not to me.
But that's what you asked me to give you an example of. Right?
Woo. Yeah, we back. I need that.
Whoa, where were we going? I got...
Tone.
Yeah, so tone is something that I've hurt Tavior with before because I talk the way that I talk, that's where I was. This is how I talk, this is what I'm going to say. And I may not be like disrespectful in word choice, but I was disrespectful in tone. And so, but again, it came with nuance because I was like, my sisters are never offended by this. My brother, actually, I found out later he was just quiet about it, but I guess he was more a little offended by it.
Shout out to the bro, same age brother, Darius.
And that's something that in conversation he's been like, sometimes just takes it on the chin. And he's like, you know what? I know her heart. I know she's not trying to come across a specific way right now. And I know she's not trying to harm me. Like, she's not intentionally trying to be disrespectful or talk down to me. It's just... And then he'll bring it up to me later, like, your tone was kind of crazy.
Facts.
Well, you probably wouldn't bring it up. You probably wouldn't bring it up to me later.
Be like...
You would not say anything. We don't have to go there, but...
Yeah, we don't have to go there.
But anyway, in this season, something that's been kind of in my brain a lot is like, at what point is it unforgiveness to keep you where you are in my head? Like paint a caricature of you and be like, this is who he is. So anytime we have a conversation like this, this is what I expect. Anytime we get into this kind of a fight, this is what I expect.
You perceive me like a static image rather than film.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to find out the balance between like a fact of like this may be unhealed.
In me?
In him, yeah. So the fact that he either doesn't see it, because I also believe like he can see me clearer than I can see myself. So there may be some things that I just don't know yet. And like, did you have...
The blind spots.
Yeah, like there's been moments in our marriage where I was like, earlier on in our marriage, I was like bopping around, kind of always out of the house and hanging out with friends and stuff. And he was just like praying about it because he was feeling lonely because I wasn't prioritizing us as a unit. I was just kind of like adding him to my old life. And so I remember I went on a date, like I went out on a date, meaning a tour. I was out on the road. And I had a conversation with the husband and the wife operated very similarly to me, just kind of bopping around. And I asked the husband, like, when she's busy, like when her schedule's so full, like, what do you feel? And he was like, I feel lonely and I don't feel chosen. And I was like, dang. So I got back in town, talked to Tavior about it, and I was like, I asked him how, because that was something we had been talking about. I asked him how he felt, and he said he felt lonely and not chosen. And Tavior was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's exactly what
Couldn't
it is."
articulate it.
Yeah. So, but he had seen that much longer than I had.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like you had to pretend like it wasn't a part of
Facts.
what was happening.
Yeah, and also it's like, for me, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I never like to come to someone with an issue or a problem and not have some kind of plan of action for resolve of how we can fix this thing.
It's bad.
Yeah. Not in all cases. Like sometimes, like in a creative space, like I feel if somebody's providing criticism, I'm all here for it. But like, don't just criticize something and then be like, well, later, if you got something to say, be like, hey, this is what I saw. Have you ever thought about doing this? Or like maybe this. And then I'm like, oh, this is cool because this is actually constructive rather than just destructive. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, I know this is a
A little
complete,
bit of a tangent.
yeah,
We'll
crazy.
Yeah.
Can we break off?
Yeah.
What's the point of you, not you, the university, critiquing something and not adding something to remedy the critique? At this point, you just pointing fingers.
No, see, I feel like, and maybe this is in the dynamic of like the band.
Okay.
Like sometimes you don't have the answer. It's just like, this is not. So let's say you were doing like something cinematic.
Okay.
And that's not really my thing. That's not my world. But I would look at the photo and you're like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't love it.
Okay.
That's a critique. And I didn't offer anything.
That is a critique, but that's more of a like preference. If someone, I'm speaking more so from like let's say you're looking at the images, right, that I captured, and you're like, I feel like it's really dark in some spaces and way too bright in other spaces. Okay, that's a critique, but also like that could be the vision that I have for that thing. But also it's like you could be like, have you ever thought about kind of like shortening your dynamic range so that everything could be like in the picture? And I'm like, no, I never thought about that. Rather
But
than
I'm saying,
like,
what if I'm the person? What if I'm literally me, who I didn't even know what that is?
Yeah.
And all I said was, it just seems too dark and too light
and then what would you say?
to me.
Okay, but like, what would your recommendation be?
I wouldn't have one. That's what I'm saying. That's not my thing at all. You're like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, dang, it seems like overexposed over here and underexposed over here. Like, that's what I'm going for. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay. Maybe
Maybe
I'm thinking of critiquing in the capacity of something actually currently in the moment being created rather than it already being made.
Okay, so let's go there. So
Okay.
let's say we're making a song. You're in the studio.
Wait, we're in the studio last
Yeah,
week.
there's a sound, and you're like, you like this? And I'm like, I don't like that sound that's happening right there.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, do you want me to take it out? And you're like, yeah. Like that's a remedy to the issue.
But I'm saying you gave me the remedy. I didn't.
Right, but I'm also like, okay, so remember that like bell tone that was just like, dun, dun, and you're like, can you, like that's kind of it, but could you make it sound more round? That's what I mean by like
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, like you're giving me a direction in which to go.
My biggest thing is that it's not always criticism. In order to be constructive, doesn't always have to come with a remedy, in my opinion.
I wouldn't say that's like a universal broad strokes, but I'm saying that useful criticism could.
Could, yeah. Has
an opportunity
an opportunity to. But I just think that sometimes critique without remedy is also, bringing it back to like a marriage dynamic, I think sometimes that I wish you would do that to me more.
Be like, you out of pocket.
Yeah. Because
figure it out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's you're coming from that perspective when all you're saying is, I don't feel seen.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, it's like something about the way you talk to me in this moment, I do not feel seen.
Okay, I agree with you. And I don't want to get too harped up on the critique side, but I just gave you a remedy. I gave you a remedy of saying like, in me not feeling seen, what I desire for you, it's obvious. It's more of a like read between the lines. It's not as explicit, but I'm saying in me not feeling seen, I desire to feel seen.
Okay, well then my first one was, I don't like that.
Why don't you like that?
But I'm saying, do you see how you
don't
are
like
the one?
What are we talking about?
You see
the picture?
No, the critique. No, the relationship. Let's say I talk to you crazy or something.
Okay.
In your version of crazy, because they are different. you by you saying I don't like that. Hey,
Right.
I don't like that.
Thank you.
Outright, I would be like, okay, you don't have to say I don't like that because this. Can you talk to me this way?
Well, if I were to articulate how it made me feel, I think we could probably move in a better direction because it would facilitate connection and growth.
Maybe, but I think that it is fine and well to say that doesn't work for me.
Okay. But that response to me sounds like I don't know how like if you were to ask me, we had a point of disconnection, right? And you were like, yo, how do you feel? And me being like, I don't know how I feel. And I just stay at, I don't know how I feel. As time progresses, I feel like me feeling the emotion of I don't know how I feel is unsatisfactory.
How much time are we talking?
I don't know. As long as
so you're talking about
so long
maybe
as
we're
this thing
talking
is
about
not remedied.
two different things. So I'm talking about criticism in a moment. That is the spark to a conversation, whether that be creative or relational.
Right.
I think it's totally fine not to have a remedy.
Okay, so
But you're talking about over time.
I didn't know criticism was used as a vehicle to spark a conversation. I thought it was just, this is my 2 cents, I'm gone. More so in the like digital realm of like, I left a comment of like, woo, 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 and then I'm gone, peace. Like, that's where I was coming from, the lens of criticism, not with the expectation that dialogue would follow behind that.
But I think any criticism, we need to shift back to the point.
Sorry,
I think any criticism will spark a conversation in any way.
Depends on if you acknowledge it or not.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not talking about like, I have to acknowledge anybody who's just like a hater online.
Right.
But I am saying if somebody that's like, dang, I wish this, it's like the comment you got when you're like, the audio is, hey, by the way, the audio is low. It sparked something in us to be like, okay, like let's check it, let's double check, let's make sure there was no remedy. It wasn't like, hey, look at this setting and blah, blah, blah.
But I think that's the remedy though, because that was one person's experience and I was like, okay, is the video too quiet? And I was like, it sounds okay.
I know, but I think I'm saying they didn't bring a remedy. That was just critique.
So is it my responsibility to take the critique and decipher what this is?
Well, I'm saying back to the comment of critique without remedy. Well, no, you were saying critique and remedy is constructive criticism, whereas it's just a critique outside of that. And I'm like, I think critique without the person bringing a remedy can be constructive, like the person who was like, hey, the volume's low. And then it sparked something in us to go and check a couple things. The same way relationally, if you said, hey, your tone feels off, period.
Right.
Whether that was and then you walked away or not, it does spark something in me to be like, okay. Now it's my choice because I could make it be like, I think it doesn't become constructive when there's not like good ground for the seed to land in. And now I'm just like offended and defensive, and you don't know, you're just sensitive, blah, blah, blah.
So all criticism is constructive? That's kind of like the basis of the argument, no?
I think that, again, I'm not talking about, I think that's a huge statement, but I don't think I would lean on the side of yes. There's obviously nuance.
You never speak in absolutes.
Huh?
It's like nothing.
What does that have to do with anything? What did I say?
I just remember one time how you were getting on me for, a lot of times I shouldn't, but I do speak in absolutes just out of passion. And when you speak in absolutes, you're always going to be wrong. And when we were having this conversation, Zandy was like, I never speak in absolutes. And I was like,
that was not even the point.
It's I was like that's an absolute statement.
And do something else with it, which is why he can't even remember.
But it was just so funny though. This. It was so funny because it was just, you couldn't pay for that. You know what I mean? All right, sorry.
I don't even know how did that even come up?
We said we was gonna peel off. Now we getting back.
No, how did the absolutes come up in your brain?
Oh, because you were talking about. I was saying. Or suggesting that you're saying that your foundational argument is that all criticism is constructive. And you're like, yes, but I also don't want to make a broad statement. a sweeping one, and that reminded me of the I never make absolutes.
To the point that I generally don't make absolutes.
There you go. That's a very the way you craft that statement is very chess-like fashioned in the sense of like.
Well, yeah, because you're married to him, who will use it against you and say, actually, you just made it absolute by saying that.
But that's not true because you got that from mom, the absolute statement.
Don't make absolutes.
Yeah.
That's not the sentence you're talking about crafting.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I'm trying to give you some big ups right now. I'm saying that like writing or constructing your thoughts and communicating yourself in a very eloquent manner prevents an opportunity for people to try and twist your words because you've already expressed it so clearly and boldly. It's not like a flimsy response. It's like firm. However, there's no holes to get in. Just trying to.
Did you see how it's a little bit ironic that you're saying that? After making your whole thing about, I got you because you said you never made absolutes and that's an absolute.
No, for sure. But we got to go both sides and keep it lit. You know what I mean? Like it was as long
as we can.
It was a hilarious situation. But the real fact and the heart of the matter is what I just explained.
Thank you.
Anyway, we're talking about not leaving me in a still photo, but maybe 24 frames per second.
Yes. And I currently, in this moment, when he was like, yeah, let's talk about that, I was like, I don't have like a conclusion to it. I'm not, it's something that I'm still processing. Do you want to talk about the other night?
Which one?
When we were eating naan and stuff.
Oh, in what capacity?
The example of, it's still like an example of your growth from the past, but it still rears its head sometimes.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a detailed thing.
Yeah. Pretty much just like the frustration of.
Can I frame it?
Yeah.
Tavior, when we first got together, was pretty unaware of like the emotional side of a human in general.
Facts.
Like aware obviously that he has emotion, but didn't realize they were tools and could be used for a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like, I have to get away from this feeling, or I don't want to feel this, so let me turn my eyes, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Through the 7 years we've been together, he's grown significantly.
Thanks.
And learning how to identify the emotion that's going on in him, being able to track back why, and then also how to move through it. So it's not just like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing this emotion, but able to process in order to almost like, like a check engine light, actually look under the hood and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we first started dating and we would have conflict, it was hard to get through conversation if he felt high emotion in himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's never been like a yeller or disrespectful to me or anything like that, but he would just shut down.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything you could really get to. I couldn't really get through to him any way that I tried because it was like a panic button or something. Like once we got into any kind of disagreement, he would hit the panic button and everything would be like, choo, 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 and you just couldn't get back in until the code was pressed and somehow I was let back in.
Facts.
So that's been an example of like the hurt thing. He wasn't like, I'm trying to shut you out because I don't like you.
Yeah.
But it was just like something in him was telling him, hey, I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I have to shut down. And that was before me. Mm-hmm. And so, but in those scenarios, I would feel hurt because I would feel like he's choosing X over me, whether that be the emotion or disconnect. He's choosing disconnection over me. Mm-hmm. And so over time, I learned like, okay, if this happens and I can't, he's going to shut me out. Mm-hmm. So in some instances in the past, that was true. Mm-hmm. But when forgiveness takes place and grace for his process and the wounds in him that still need to be healed, we got to walk through, and through counseling, like walk through life in a way where we could learn like, okay, when he's triggered, this is what you can do, and vice versa. Like when I'm triggered, this is how you can say, this is what this person needs. Yeah. Just get more tools on like how to connect better. Mm-hmm. So now fast forward to 4 years into marriage, just a couple nights ago, we were having a conversation and the temptation for the panic button was or the disconnection came, the panic button, which I would say is rarely hit now. Like even in conflict, he doesn't go straight to disconnection or wanting to shut me out. But this particular night, he did. I would say panic button was hit.
No, I think I had this kind of visualization of how it felt in the sense that, and maybe this may be a little too niche, but when you're on stage, it sounds a certain kind of way. And when you're in the crowd, it sounds a certain kind of way. And 9.5 times out of 10, how it sounds on stage is not how it sounds in the crowd.
Yeah.
It sounds fire in the crowd, how it's supposed to sound. It can sound like absolute chaos on stage.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when I'm experiencing emotions, I'm on stage.
And I'm in the audience.
You're in the audience, and it's going through the roof for me. But the way that I'm expressing it, it's just like, oh, he's cool. And it's like, I'm not cool right now. I'm not cool right now. And even when I'll come back and be like, I'm so sorry, I was just like, so, and you'll be like, what?
And emotionally, I think that's a really good example. Obviously, as a musician, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But proximity is a big thing when it comes to stage volume. So if Tavior is right on stage and there's a drum set behind him, the chaos is much closer to him than it is to the person in the audience who has opportunity for the mics and stuff to pull down volume and things of that nature.
Or even bodies to eat the sound.
And sometimes what he's perceiving as a very chaotic conversation is because of his proximity to the trigger.
Facts.
Whereas mine's much further, so I'm like, it didn't seem that crazy to me. Like it wasn't that loud. And so in the other night, I wouldn't say the panic button was pushed, but I think the chaos was more.
I was up in the room. I just didn't have the doors closed.
My finger was like this.
I'll do it. Hey, try me.
And I promise you I'll push the button. Yeah.
I was for sure in the room. For sure in the room.
So for me, who the history of being hurt in this way, watching him hover over the button, hypothetically, I'm like, am I about to be hurt? So how do I operate in this situation? And it's in that moment, if we could like freeze frame that moment, that I'm like, this is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Where is forgiveness in this? Where is grace in this? And then where is the facts? Because how does Jesus do it? Is it like, okay, you always do this? You know what I mean? There's a real history of me not trusting you, God, you know? There's a real history, and I don't think you're holding it against me. But is not trusting you sin, and therefore is it wiped away, so then you don't even remember it? You know what I'm saying? Or is it, I just don't know what Jesus would do in that moment.
In what moment?
The panic, the freeze frame of this, I'm watching this person decide if they're going to make the same decision or not. That has hurt me. Where is my memory of this? Is it in the...
I feel like it's in the cross of like, oh, yeah, this may be transpiring, but it's already been accounted for, paid for, washed over, new creation. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not one of those things where it's like, yo, once you get saved, salvation, filled with the Holy Spirit, you're never going to sin again. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, nah, like that's just not how this works. But he sees, it's just like how God sees Jesus when he sees us. I think it's that same thing.
So I need to be asking the Lord to show me who you are in that moment.
I think so.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think that's what we need in every moment. Not just like moments of trying times, but like I believe that's how Jesus is able to love the way that he loves, because he's seeing things for what they are accurately, which then allows him to operate not effectively, but like how as he should. You know what I mean?
So tricky.
Oh yeah, you're definitely. you're doing something that's spiritual, and your flesh is telling you to do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because I've never really been one to like pop off necessarily. Would you agree?
No.
It's not really my personality. I like to ask just so, again, I believe he has a more accurate picture of me than I do.
If that was the habit, I don't know if we'd be here.
No, but I think that I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough because you don't pop off, but you do in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Elaborate.
So you're not going to, again, I've never been disrespected by Tave. I've never been cussed out. I've never been yelled at. I have, however, he gets passive aggressive. So it's like he starts saying stuff.
That's not my fault though.
Yes, it is. You're an adult.
It is. But I think it absolutely is my fault. However, growing up in a passive aggressive environment, I would be interested if I shared that same exact sentiment in the passive aggression and I did it directly. Would that make things change? Are you upset at the message or
No, it's the way, because
so you're upset at the message, like the delivery system?
Because the delivery system is made to hurt.
Is that what passive aggression is?
I can't say in totality, but I would say the way that you use it, you know what I mean? Like and I'm just aggressive. Yeah,
but no then passive, aggressive.
There's no passive.
Has intention to hit, to hurt?
For sure.
Okay.
They both can be true.
Both can.
Yeah. One does not cancel out the other. So your point was?
What?
Why'd you say it like, well, aggressive is?
No, I'm just inquiring.
Okay. It's like, you're like, oh, what do you say? You used to say, I just say stuff with a little...
Oh, I thought that had a little...
salt.
A little seasoning on it. A little zing.
But if I did you like you did me, you would not be able to handle it.
That's because you're lethal with words.
No, if I just took your words and said them back to you.
Is that true?
Yes. I know for a fact. I'm like... If I said the exact same thing, you'd be like, whoa. Whoa. Like,
but I don't know. But I don't know if you have the tone to do it though. Cause you would be saying a passive aggressive thing in an aggressive way.
Yeah, I have no time to think about how I'm about to spice this up. I'm gonna just say it.
You just eat it right out the oven.
Yeah, like what are we talking about? But anyway, that's been my thoughts. Like, it sounds like he's awake. I don't know 100% other than asking the Holy Spirit, how do I do this? How do I walk in forgiveness and truth? And the truth of the matter is, there's still triggers. And there's still moments we both will not see coming that will trigger us into an old response that will, trigger something that was lying dormant that we didn't even know was there. It's not even a matter of us not pursuing healing in our lives. It's just like you trip over something and it's like, I didn't know that was there. You know what I mean? So my fight or flight or whatever it is comes up. So there's still going to be moments that hurt me, even though I know you're not trying to be harmful. And how do I maybe protect myself isn't even my job?
I don't think it is, because it's like first off, I think to answer the question is to like walk in the spirit and try to remain in the spirit.
Yeah.
I think when the cuts start to come, that's when you want to have more of a flesh response. Not saying you, I'm saying the person in general. But also, just because you're taking the high road does not mean that you're not going to get hit. Just like Jesus being like, yo, if you get hit on one cheek, turn the other cheek. He didn't say you're not gonna get hit. He actually said when you do,
Right.
give them the other one. You know what I mean? And also, like, I forget where else it's stated in scripture talking about like pray for those and bless those that curse you. It'd be like heaping coals on their head. I've been doing that lately. And
Romans.
say it again.
That's Romans.
Romans. And that joint is crazy.
Somebody just.
It was in that message,
Yeah,
which I put in the bio on the last episode. People was in the comments like, "Hey, yo, where the link at?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry."
That's good. Let's get into this.
Yeah,
Bible together.
that is good. But now I've really seen that change in my life, and it's both softened my heart and given me an opportunity to rise above where I am. Because I'm no longer being controlled by an external force.
Yeah.
I think,
Meaning the emotion.
or an external force, meaning like an individual or person that's influencing my emotional state, and now taking hold of the other components of my soul that are gonna lead my will in order to do a certain kind of action.
Yeah.
Where it starts to get super tricky is when it's when it's not the guy that gave me the finger in traffic, true story.
Was that recent?
Yeah. And I was just like, Lord, I pray that he gets to his destination safe, that he gets blessed with
Wow, that's huge for you.
Oh yeah. I was going in on him. I like my new rule is like, if I'm about to pray for somebody, I need to pray like I'm praying for me.
Yeah, that's what she said.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was like, oh, dang, that's so easy to remember too. And I don't need to be like foo-foo with it. Like, Lord, please do this. It's like, what do I want from my dad? Like, here you go, bro. And I'm gonna be led by the Spirit in whatever way that he's telling me to do this thing. But I think where it gets tricky is where it's like, that guy, I'll never see him again. I will see you later.
I'll see you in the bed when we wake up. We work at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's good though, the prayer though. That's good. I'll say I could definitely be praying for you more. I pray for me to have grace with you, but I'm not praying directly for you in that area. You know what I mean? And that probably can change things too. Because I'm like, Lord, like help me respond with grace. Lord, help me not harbor anything, you know, but it's still me.
And also, I think even the practice of that is incredibly powerful because that is the way of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Like you're seeking the kingdom, meaning that like I'm in.
Dang, that's Matthew.
Let's go.
And all these things will be added in Matthew 6:33.
Facts, it's gonna take care of
Seek ye
itself.
first the kingdom of God, and it'll be added.
Everything else is gonna be
So I'm
straight.
sure it's like seek Him.
But you're pursuing His people. You're pursuing the kingdom. You know what I mean?
It's good. Didn't think I could talk to you. You know what I mean? It's like an interesting topic to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Be like, how do I not like harbor, you know, like so much resentment?
How do I not want to just like knock somebody out?
You specifically.
That's correct.
You know, when you be
So,
really.
how do I not knock you out?
Yeah. What do you think I do about that? I just can't take it anymore.
I'm curious. What do you think about that? That is kind of crazy. Dang.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
sorry
how do you
for
take
being
it?
like, so what do you want to talk about?
No, that's good. Pray by the Holy Spirit. This gives like an interesting, the podcast gives an interesting, it's almost like another person in the room.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? To kind of process through things. Not that we would be different as far as information. But it does give, I wonder if everybody would hear that.
I wonder if the mic picked that up.
Just
I'm out to boost.
tearing my leg up. But it's good accountability. That's what I should say.
Yeah.
Because we take seriously the words that we're saying to people, and so even I think talking to each other in front of them is accountability.
In what way?
Maybe that helps like talk through a conversation like this.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm still held accountable to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, well, you know, you'd be like kind of, you know what I mean? Like I can't get, or I shouldn't get cutting.
Right. Yeah.
Which I really should. If I'm thinking about it through that, like, why am I not thinking about that when the Holy Spirit's in the room with us? As if like they're more.
How much time do we have?
I don't even know.
5. We got 5 minutes.
That's just a real question for me.
Yeah.
I ain't got no advice.
We could unpack that one. Nah, but I do think it, there's the common thread of the approval of man versus the approval of God.
Yeah.
And again, it's a flesh response to be championed, observed, admired by men. Sorry, y'all. My son is going to town. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that, and I say the same. I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's not just you. Oh no. All right, buddy. We're gonna get up out of here soon, okay?
You got 5 minutes in you? Okay.
I feel like to get into this place, to acknowledge and to come into awareness of that is a blessing.
Yeah.
Because it's just further refinement, further discovery, and that is only uncovered by everything else that had been uncovered on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could only
Yeah.
have gotten there by everything else being removed,
Yeah.
which is a blessing.
Yeah. I think I'm just wanting to grow, you know, and like serious about my Instagram or even the podcast or whatever, not reflecting a better human than who I actually am.
Facts. Keeping it lit.
Yeah, it's just like, it's just not worth it to me, you know, to like, even if it's just that me and God who know that, like, oh, Zandy has some resentment or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't, that's not good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. So much passion, yes.
Facts. The experience of like, oh, I met them in real life, and they're actually more than what they show.
You know, and I really believe that's Tabitha Brown.
Facts.
If I ever meet her, I feel like it's gonna be like, yeah, you better than even the joy that you
Like,
have.
why you just cheesing? Now I'm smiling. Dang.
And she's at an age too where it's like, when you get to that point with God where you've been through stuff and you're
All the other stuff is just like, man, I ain't got time for y'all.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is, those have been my thoughts. Like, okay, how do we really do that? How do we really love each other to the best of our ability, including not keeping a record of wrong, you know, including not being easily offended. And I think, you know, I talk to a lot of my friends a lot about marriage stuff and just their relationship in general. Aww.
Truth.
Seems like his.
You think he has constipation?
Well, I don't know. Thanks for watching this episode of Mowry.
Yeah, thanks for watching the Mowry podcast. Till next time. Peace.